Welcome to Let's Talk Nation. I'm your man, Rod Love, and with me tonight is none other. Everybody's familiar with the General, Attorney Greg Jackson.
Once again, it's on, brother Love. Hey, it's been about 4 weeks since I said this, man, but what was this weekend for you this past weekend?
Hey, man, the rep and I know we'll do introductions, but the rep and I was talking about this weekend, and the only word I can say to sum it up, it was blessed.
Okay.
What about yours?
It was good. But I'm going to tell y'all right now, and I'm going to ask Representative Banks to help me out with this. I think I'm going to do a petition to end Father's Day.
Oh, no.
And the reason why is because I'm jealous because I look around every year and see what the women get on Mother's Day.
Oh,
Restaurants
yeah. Come
are
on
shut down.
Hey, but you know what? I cannot do this better than my partner who going on our 9th year. And so, partner, if you would make the introductions of our special guests.
Listen, for those who do not know, sitting to my right is a great legislative man. He not only just a legislator for the state of Florida, he's also a great man of God. That's how my introduction to Doug Banks and Pastor Banks was as a minister, pastor. I went and I spoke to him when I was running for public office. Had a chance to get to know him a little bit better as a public servant, serving as a commissioner for the great city of Apopka. He is my neighbor. He is my friend. He is none other than State Representative Doug Banks. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad to be with you guys.
Well, we're glad to have you. And Greg, in your introductions, man, you said something that really hit home.
Yeah.
When I met then Pastor Bankston, I've been in that city. I built my house 17 years ago. And when I met you, your door was always open to say, come on in and let's have a conversation, whether it's
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
I like it.
That might have been the genesis of the show.
Yeah.
But hey, we're glad to have you here this evening. And just like a lot of folk that sees that the session takes place every year, a lot of people, they know that legislators get together. They don't actually know all the things that you do. And so we're glad to have you here this evening because there's one topic that our executive producer often says, Rod, save it for the show. And Brother Jackson, Rep actually start getting into the nuts and bolts of something that I think we're going to push back a little bit, but it's nothing other than property tax. So for those of you who tuned in, stay tuned in because you're going to learn something. Greg, what do you talk about? The IQ going up?
Listen, man, we send IQs up anywhere from 15 to 20 points every show. But tonight, since we have a special guest in the house with us, and we would be remiss to not mention that we're going to have another legislator to join us also, Representative Bruce Antone, and we'll talk to him. He's been a guest host on the show a couple of times, so folks are familiar with him. But yeah, I mean, that is a topic that a lot of folks have called and asked about, and it's going to be great to have folks that sit in Tallahassee that know what's going on, that can talk about the realities of what's taking place instead of us guessing and speculating. So
you're right. Yeah. So we'll get it directly from you. But Rep, before we dive into it, let me ask you this question. This would be what number of sessions for you?
Just finished my 4th session.
4th session.
Oh, wow.
So
and I'm having fun because time flies when you have fun.
but let me ask you this: have you set a record this session in terms of the number of special sessions that you've attended?
Yeah, I'm not sure last year, but I know we had 3 special sessions this year, but we had quite a few last year as well. So
okay. And could you tell our audience what is the purpose of special sessions?
Yep. Well, again, we have a 60-day session by law that we are mandated to have. We have a couple months before that when we're back and forth there for committee weeks, which is setting up all the bills that we will run. We get 7. Senators can run as many as they want, but you have to have it on both sides. So we got to work it real strong there. And then we hit session. But a special session is something where something either we didn't get resolved, such as this year we didn't get the budget done. And we have to do that every year. And but just, I'm one of the foot soldiers at that point. You got to, the folks at the top. I'll tell folks it feels like being the running back. You're in the huddle, and all of a sudden the quarterback calls the play, then the coach calls the play, then the booth calls the play, and these are different plays. It's like, listen, we're just playing for those fans out there. We have those special sessions to work through anything that's unresolved or key issues such as property tax.
Well, Rep and Greg, I got to throw this one out because Greg used to go back and remember that elementary, that show that used to come on and tell you about your ABCs
Oh,
and
yeah.
why they
Yeah.
make laws and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Schoolhouse Rock.
Conjunction Junction.
Schoolhouse Rock.
Schoolhouse Rock. There you go.
Yeah, Schoolhouse
And
Rock.
so we're glad to have you here, but I'm gonna take it back to elementary a little bit. Can you let our audience know who calls the special session?
Well, the governor is the one that calls special session. He has the power to do that. But the House and the Senate have the ability to, last year was a real curveball because they said, okay, we'll be here because you called it. And then they gavelled out and then gavelled their own meeting. So it's just, sometimes it's just a little bit of power plays up there. But you know what? You've got to have that tension from both sides to try and make sure we get it right. And
That's
I love
right.
what our former speaker had said, Paul Renner, when he was there, he said, we like to hit the middle of the fairway.
Yeah.
And so when you have both sides of issues speaking, many times it helps us to find that tension and actually get the best laws.
Right.
Yeah. But it's right up your alleyway because I've seen you play golf before.
Or not
There you
straight
go.
down the fairway. You ain't seen me play in a while. Yeah. But I mean, one of the other things too, and I think that this speaks a lot to what people don't realize. But in Tallahassee, in the legislature, whether you are a Democrat or Republican, you all still are able to talk, have conversations, and work together on certain things when you can.
Absolutely.
So, obviously you have some disagreements on some things. Talk to folks about, that camaraderie with regards to the other folks that are on the other side of the aisle.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, we are not Washington in Tallahassee, and I love it. We have a lunchroom where we all meet together, breakfast or lunch. We're there. We're constantly interacting. Many times when people are before cameras, they're going to, show off a little bit for the folks back at home to show them that they know what they're doing. But the bottom line is we really do work together.
Right.
When Rep. Antone gets here, I love that, man. We actually passed the Tuskegee Airman Bill together, which is one of my favorite ones because they've always been heroes of mine being a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, we do work together. We talk about these different issues. We'll sit sometimes for hours and go back and forth to try and sway. If we don't have a conversation, we're going nowhere. It's like a car. As long as it's parked, you're not going anywhere. But if you'll just start rolling, then you can get it steered. And conversations are like that. When we start doing that, you know what? I believe what I believe, or I wouldn't believe it. But when I can hear a different argument, then that can open up my eyes and I can maybe be steered a different direction. So it is that interaction. And we really do have that there. I count good friends on both sides of that.
And that's great. Representative Anton, he's been on the show with Greg and I a number of times. And one of the things that he told us about was him having breakfast with the speaker on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so, when we talk about bipartisanship, and you're a living example of it. And I'm saying, let's push politics to the side. The way that you work with your community neighbors, and I'm just going to really even go further, if you don't mind, Pastor. I was this spry, wide-eyed guy that moved into a community, and I was trying to figure out what was really going on in the Apopka community. And you said, come on in, let's sit down, let's have a conversation. And I noticed you do that with individuals that are naysayers and the ones that want to jump up and down and say, yes, let's go ahead and do it. When you have that knack for opening your door, and what I notice is when people come in that door and they realize that you care, that's when you can have a conversation.
Yeah. Well, people are not the enemy.
That's
Ideas true. May be, but sometimes, if we don't have those conversations,
right.
It opens eyes on both sides of those issues.
Right.
And sometimes you're like, you know what? My intention was right, but I think you've got a better way of getting there. So, and many times that's the way it is in Tallahassee. We actually want many of the same goals. It's just we have a different approach of how do we get there.
Yeah.
So, it's that interaction that really, it's like collaborating. I'm a songwriter as well, grew up with singing family, and, it's the collaborations that make the best music.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you this also, because in addition to working in collaboration with other lawmakers, sometimes you find yourself in some interesting spots. Sometimes you find yourself in places that aren't as friendly. And one of the things that I've noticed about you, and one of the things that I respect very deeply about you, is that you never shy away from hard conversations. You're always there, willing to have a conversation and a discussion. And in particular, I know that you were at an event in Apopka not too long ago, and I know that it became a hard conversation.
Yeah.
And you stayed. And one of the things that really stood out to me and galvanized why I have so much respect for you is that night you were actually supposed to go to your granddaughter's graduation.
Well, it was our school, and thankfully her graduation, it was the high schools that I didn't realize until afterwards. So thankfully I didn't miss her graduation.
Right.
I did miss the high schoolers, and
Right.
that's our school that we founded, and it was an important time. But it was one of those things that, I had to make a call there, because this is our community. And once it began to look like, man, this is going to tear folks up. If I get up and walk out, it's going to just say, yep, see, there it all is. It will create a further divide. To me, that divide was more important at that night. And again, I did get to see my granddaughter.
And Brother Love, that was one of the conversations, because when it happened, I called him on the phone personally. And I said, listen, let's have this conversation. And the thing that resonated with me more than anything else is what he just said. He said, Greg, I couldn't leave. He said, if I would have left at that moment, it would have ruined any opportunity to have these discussions again in the future. And so for that reason, I think that having that attitude and that pulse of the community and that feel for the community is why you have been as successful as you have been as a representative. So because you passed some and been a part of some very interesting and some very thought-provoking bills, one of which we were just talking about.
Yeah. I mean, bills where we can come together, others where I've literally had folks on the other side of the aisle texting me, I really agree with you, but I just can't be with you because of the political pressure.
Before we go to the bill, and I'm going to remind you of something, Brother Jackson. Yeah. When we were 2017, we had about six killings in our community. And then County Commissioner Brian Nelson called up and he says, hey, we gotta do something. And what we did was form the Task Force of Violence on violence. Pastor, you were one of the first people to come to the table and say, what can I do? Not only saying, what could you do, but participated in the blueprint to look at not just how do we solve violence or if it's an enforcement or prosecution perspective, but then we actually got into how do we create jobs?
That's right.
Greg's expertise looked at community redevelopment agencies, CRAs. We just didn't focus on the violence. We focused on the holistic, but you were right there at the table with us.
Well, and you'd said it earlier, it's really about serving. And being a pastor coming up that way, Jesus said the greatest among you will be the servant of all. Right. And I had people challenge me at first, well, you're a pastor, should you be involved in this? But the whole point is serving. And we lost that. In politics, politicians become a dirty word. And sadly, there's a lot of dirt back there. But you know what? We're supposed to be public servants.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely
and if we bring that mindset and say, how can we help to resolve the issues that are around us and work together to get it done, then that's the best laws we make.
Well, tell you what, here's what I would like to do. I like to take a quick break because we're going to do something real magical. We're going to make another representative.
We're doing a David Copperfield.
Yeah, we're going to do a David Copperfield. So we're going to take a quick break on Let's Talk Nation, and we'll be back in a few.
They break, I fix.
Right.
They break, I fix. Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, Jaguars and Porsche. Joe's Quality Auto Repair. I specialize in European cars. They break, I fix at Joe's European Quality Auto Repair. Located at 1240 State Road 436 in Altamont Springs. They break, I fix. Call me, mention Let's Talk Nation and bring your certified dealership repair quote. And I beat by 30%. Remember, they break, I fix. Call me at Joe's European Quality Auto Repair at 407-409-6040. Again, 407-409-6040. After they break, I fix. Joe's European Quality Auto Repair.
Doc, run another one, please.
Okay. And then you got kids on here, they're killing each other. Then they're laughing about it on Facebook.
Yeah, right. Until you see them crying in somebody's courtroom. Yeah. But you know what? When you talk about the fact that it comes down to what takes place in the home, parents, Doc, I'm going to pass the baton because you did a good job of when you said mama's 16 and grandmama's 30-something, 32. So, there's a breakdown here. Yeah. I don't care what, so how do you get your arms around this when, I look back, my mom, was, I don't know, late 20s or in the 30s when I arrived on the scene, and me and my siblings, grandmama was in her 50s or 60s. So Well, how do you deal with this generation? Hey, welcome back to Let's Talk Nation. And as I mentioned to you before, we know how to do magic tricks around here, don't we, Brother Jackson?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And listen, as a part of that magic trick, we brought into the studio with us a gentleman that you all should not see as a stranger. He's been here as a co-host on the show, but he is also a state representative, also a good friend of the show, a good friend of ours. He's been in the Orlando community for as long as I know, and I've been here for 20 plus years. None other than Representative Bruce Antone.
Good evening. Glad to be here. Apologize for being late.
Yo, glad to have you.
You're right on time.
You're right on time. But you segue in here as Representative Bankson was talking about working across the aisle.
Okay.
And he said something that I'm gonna go ahead and repeat for him. He said, "I love that, Bruce."
Legend up there. How long have you been there? Longer since you've been here since Florida.
And I mean, we worked together on the Tuskegee Airmen state holiday.
Yep.
And the Tuskegee Airmen commemoration road, or whatever that road is called, but it's all under State 10. So yeah, I believe in working across the aisle. You get things done. All the butter for the bread is on the other side of the aisle.
Man, I tell you. And you've been there. You worked for when he was a state senator, our current city of Orlando mayor. But weren't you in the legislature? You took a little break or something before?
Yeah. So I worked for State Senator Buddy Dyer for 8 years. And then I got elected the first time in 2002. I was there 4 years. I left for 6, came back in 2012, termed out in 2020, and then came back in 2012.
You're a long time there.
Yeah. Somebody's got to do the job.
You're right.
That's right. So Rep. Antone, we're talking about, as Brother Love was saying, working across the aisles. And so Representative Bankson was just talking about one of the bills that I was really excited about. And he was telling me just now that it passed 100%.
Yeah.
And he was talking about the gold and silver. The
legal tender.
Yeah, the legal tender bill. And I'm going to tell you why I was excited about it, Rep, is because back in 2007, I started buying silver.
Wow.
When it was $15, $20 an ounce.
Wow.
And if anybody was watching not too long ago, it got up to 120. It's back down to like 57 right now. But when Rep. Bankson was talking to me about that particular bill that he was looking to pass, I was excited about it.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that.
Well, what I love about it is it allows everyone to succeed. It's about everyone having an opportunity.
Yes.
And part of it went with it was we removed that the tax. If you bought under $500 worth, then you were taxed. It's like, why are we hurting the little guy? He's the one that needs the most help. So we got rid of that. But the foundation of this gold and silver legal tender, we used to be on the gold standard. Gold and silver was our money until we went off in 73 with Nixon. But the standard or gold and silver has an intrinsic value. When we were tied to the petrodollars, that was a 50-year deal. It went away in 2023. But gold and silver, again, it keeps its value. The problem is money is currency. The dollar is currency. When you need to spend your gold or silver, you have to turn it into currency. And what happens? They penalize us with a capital gains tax. You can't write off your dollars when they're losing their value, but you end up having to pay because your gold and silver is appreciated. So the Constitution gave us this right that a state can declare gold and silver as legal tender. We can't coin it or mint it, but we can do that. So we set an established value on that. So because it's legal tender, it's the same your dollar bill says this bill is legal tender or it's cash. So making these accounts that people can put it in there based upon a stabilized value, now they can go with a debit card and spend it just like they do their dollars. However, it can remain in their account. It can appreciate in its value. And yes, it goes up and down. But as we were saying, it's like being in a boat. Waves go up and down, but the tide rises.
You're right.
And gold and silver is an inflation beater. So this is going to help the average person. You can go out with $10 instead of buying a lotto card. You can get a little bit of gold, a little bit of silver, begin to build that up. And it's a stable thing over time. And we worked hard on that one. And it was new to all of us. And I dug in, got a hold of it, and we went and had lots of meetings together. It's like, okay, tell me about this. We passed it 100%. I mean, lit that board up. Campbell hit us red on that first time. Right. When it came back, I went like, Campbell, come on, man. He's like, come on, I got you. So we lit it up green all the way.
Reps, let me pose this to both of you. When everybody heard that Greg and I were going to have you two here, this is one of the comments that I got more than anything else. Everybody says, when are we going to get our arms around insurance? So, hey, I'm gonna throw the alley-oop, and either one of you can go ahead and jump in on that one.
Maybe with the next governor. is when we get our arms around insurance, and it needs to be automobile insurance and it needs to be property insurance. But you know, both of those things are causing a big hit on everybody's budget.
That's right.
And we've got to do something about it. I understand, you know, the deal with the insurance company. They have to, you know, make sure they got enough money to cover their risk. But at the same time, this really is hurting the affordability in Florida.
Well, you know, for that one, that was one I did hold firm on. I just studied that before I went up there. 2 years before I ever ran, we were dealing with this, and the issue was we had 8% of the claims in this state and 80% of the litigation. So we knew we had to have tort reform. And of course, now, and this is not to attack ourselves. We need them. We need them to fight for us, and we need them to go after the bad guys. But what was happening was it was creating an incentive to continue to you know, expand that. So we made that change, and then the next group came in, this last group, and they wanted us to back off on that. And that was a tough one. I had a sleepless night because to me, it's like, I can't do it. I'm convinced this is part of the equation. The other is making sure that there's more authority for OAR to make sure that the insurance companies are playing fair. And so because of that, of what we did, there were those saying, well, you did this, we haven't seen any relief. What happened was those who were gaming the system, once we passed it, they flooded the pipeline before it became enacted. So all of those things had to play themselves out before we felt the relief. So it looked like we didn't really do anything. But after about a year and a half, 2 years, now there's 17 new companies came back in.
And that was,
And if you've been shopping, and I encourage everyone shop and shop often when it comes to insurance, especially for home ownership, because that has started coming down. The problem is inflation is driving the cost to replace things. So it never goes down to those pre-levels just because it costs more. You know, if you go to Home Depot, you know. But it is coming in the right direction. Auto insurance is starting to come back down. I think we need to address the health insurance.
Well, Rep, I'm going to just tap
And can I say this real quick? So, you know, prior to COVID, I think folks were gaming the system. I can't prove it, but if you remember, we had windshield claims, right? We had roofing claims. We had floods and home claims. I mean, folk were gaming that system like crazy. And there was one or two law firms, I think, over in Lakeland that was driving most of the claims. And folks let that thing just run and run and run for about 4 or 5 years until they milked it. And then, we got to do something. So I'm stopped there.
So, and I'll throw this in as well. I started to run a bill. This actually came from the CFO, was a bill he had been doing to make sure and hold presidents of insurance companies and banks accountable. If they wrote a company into bankruptcy, and this was happening, they would write it down, take all the profits out, and go right back over it and start a new company. And so the bill, had we been able to move forward, we couldn't find the Senate sponsor, but it would have held them accountable. And if they wrote it into basically into bankruptcy, they could not be a president for at least 5 years. So we were trying to stop the ones, and that's the sad thing. It's like being a pastor. You get a bad pastor, and everybody thinks they're all that way.
But you know what? But I do like that.
I mean, God knows he's not confused about this. He's going to be held to pay for something. But, you know, the bottom line is that does happen. And so we've got to make sure that we're overseeing all of that industry, because I believe in free market, but when you mandate someone to have a product, you have to have oversight over that industry.
But I heard something that you just said when you said that, and you did this through legislation, I would imagine, where you say you couldn't go to another company and be a president. That makes a big difference. But there's something else when you talked about shopping around for insurance. I know this is not unique to one of Greg Frapp brothers, but it just so happened that one of Greg Frapp brothers, I'm out at a networking event, and I'm bemoaning the fact that my car insurance is what it is, and I have 2 young daughters, so I know that drives up insurance. I save $3,000 a year by shopping around with the same full coverage. So you're right. A lot of shopping around is what needs to take place. But you know what? We're going to get to one of the big issues in the room. And the big issue in the room. Greg, lead us off.
But no. Before we get to that, though, because we talked about one of Representative Bankston's pet projects, the Gold Bill. Rep. Anton, what was one of your pet projects that you were able to work on this session?
My pet project is always the funding for Florida's 3 private historically Black colleges and universities. Making sure that same $30.4 million gets in that budget every year. And once I'm good with that, I'm good.
Well, listen, as a part
did I
of
answer your question?
You did. As a part of one of those historically Black universities, I say thank you.
I mean, he has literally thoughts that make sure, hey, we need to make sure everyone gets the place.
Very nice. Very nice. So listen, the big conversation All right, and this is the real reason we invited y'all to the party.
Uh,
All right, because we want to get some insight. We want to talk about what is happening with the property tax bill. There are a lot of a lot of folks and a lot of entities that are concerned about what's taking place. One of which is our CRAs. They're trying to figure out how this is going to impact those communities that have community redevelopment agencies, particularly since the TIF funds come from ad valorem taxes within that area. So talk to us about what's happening with the property tax. What happened with the property tax legislation?
Well, nobody's happy, so it's probably the best bill. You know, you get different sides warring there. But yeah, everyone's frustrated, but we know we need to do something. And that's the challenge. Should we do a thing? How we do it is the real, where the sausage gets made, as they say. The fact of the matter is, and we were talking before, I look back, when did our property tax exemption go to 25? It was 1980. The average home of a Florida home was $45,000 in 1980. So 25,000, it was more than 50% of the value.
You're right.
Right off.
Yeah.
That's right.
What should have been done, if I could have waved the magic wand and go back there, tie it percentage-wise. So if it was, 54%, whatever it was, basically, then that would have incrementally gone up. We would have adjusted as we've gone forward. Now we're, 25,000. That was 50, but compared to the average home in 2026 is $382,000.
Yeah.
So it's nowhere near the percentage. So our first year, I really like an incremental step with this, because when there's this much change, even if we should do it, people need that relief. But man, when you pull the rug out from under local communities, that's the big scare, the big concern. How do we replace it? Because that's really the thing. It's replace, not remove. So we got to find ways to bring back a replacement.
This is the first time I've heard do it based on percentage, which makes
sense.
Yes.
So our first year, by next year, if the people, again, I love that we're putting it to the people. They're going to make this choice. But it's real important that information is out there, or they can make a bad choice, So the bottom line is the first year it will go to 150. That's like 34%. So it's nowhere near the same level of relief, but it is some relief. Homeowners, I've had them sit in my office and say, you know what, when I paid my home off, the bottom line, they were very responsible. They did everything was right. They paid their taxes. They paid their home off, but it cost so much less. And they made so much less, so they could only give so much away. Now the cost of living is so much high. They call it a fixed income. I call it a broken income because it cannot keep up with inflation. So they're having to make choices between food and medicine. This is bad. And they've said in my office, said, I have to sell my home that I wanted to live until my life was over, passed on to my children and keep it in my family. And now they're not able to do that. So I think it's something that we need to do for homeowners. They say statewide, and we hear different numbers sometimes, but statewide it's 35%. But the problem, and cut me off. I know I get talking.
I'll wait for you. I'll jump in. So the extreme example I use is the town of Eatonville. Eatonville has 800 homes, about 450 of them are homesteaded, right? And so most of the homes over there are assessed at less than $250,000. And so a $50,000 homestead exemption now is worth about $750. All right. So at $150,000 next year, which is 3 times that, Eatonville pulls back $2,100 per home, which is almost I don't know how much. That's $1 million. And so when it goes to 250, now we're at 5 times 750. We're at $3,700 per home.
So the homeowner gets relief, but the city has to deal with it.
So that almost that will nearly bankrupt the town of Eatonville.
Do you know what the percentage is for Eatonville that they depend upon the homeowners? Because I know for a pocket it's 13%. Statewide it's 35%.
Eatonville's budget, if I'm correct, is probably $7 million. They have the highest millage rate in the county, and they supplement their budget with very high water fees. So probably $7 million of their budget, $3 million of their budget is attributed to water fees. So now they're only working from $4 million. And when you multiply, say 500 times 3,700, you're talking about half of their budget gone easily.
Good news is, and part of this plan, and this is what the governor was trying to say, we have a way to make up that difference. However, there's a concern about it because it's grants and grant funding. There are other plans that I really proposed or pushed forward, Rep. Sapp. He came as a freshman, and he's been really studying this thing with a lot of homework. And I love his plan, different ways that we could bring a replacement without just doing a sky-high sales tax. You know, a 1% sales tax, a sales tax on the home at the front, and which you can roll into a 30-year mortgage easily and not feel the pressure. But if you remove the tax and bring that insurance back down, the average homeowner has to be 40 years old before they can even afford a home, which now makes our rental market just crushed.
Right.
If you got those first-time home buyers that are now able to afford a home, there's less pressure on the rental market, and so that they'll begin to bring the cost down on rentals. However, it's offset because some of that will roll over and increase that. So there's a limit on that, but there's the grant fund. And that grant fund, as long as it has some way to renew itself, that's a good plan. If it's just a big bunch of money that's eventually going to run out and nothing's feeding back into it, we got trouble down the road.
Right.
So there are plans to increase this. The problem that I've talked to from municipalities, their concern is, yeah, but there's no guarantee.
Right.
So what if somebody in Tallahassee doesn't like you?
Yeah.
See, that's not good.
Yeah. And let me
So
jump
now
in there, and that's my concern is that the legislature won't jump in and set up that budget stabilization fund, and then it's probably 19 counties that are going to be severely impacted, and we don't have the money in Tallahassee to make up the difference. So I don't know how we're going to make this work.
The
but
good
this
news
is a
on that
disaster.
is both sides of the aisle have those issues.
Yeah.
And representatives saying, we can't sustain this. How do we do this? So the more rural districts. So that's where those grant fundings
Gotcha.
have to roll over and help them to make up the gap. And in some places, we'll combine services. We used to do it. We had over a $30 billion increase, and the cost did not go up that much. So you know how how politicians are. If we get money, we find a way to spend it.
Yeah. So
now it's been spent. It's hard to pull that back with folks. But yeah, there's some genuine concerns, and I think there's some. some
So
possibilities.
now when we're talking about this grant funding, are we talking about like USDA grants and other governmental, federal government grant? Where is this grant funding coming from?
State for
A lot of it, is the money that we paid off debt. I mean, we paid off more debt in the last few years than the whole history of Florida combined. A lot of that will be set aside. But again, is there anything feeding into that? If not, that'll eventually run out. And so it's a remedy, but not a cure. One of the proposals that Rep. Sapp put forward that I like has to do with tourism. You know, the state of Alaska, they have oil. And what they do is out of their proceeds, they actually supplement all of their citizens. They can benefit from that, so it keeps their costs low. What do we have? Well, we have, different things. We do have oil offshore,
Right.
but we have tourism. So how can we utilize that without hurting that industry? Because we all fight for that one. That's my district.
Yeah.
And I'm going to fight for them to do that because my goodness, I forget how many 400,000 jobs right in this local area.
It's interesting.
So we got to protect it. But if there was just a minor fee, $1 fee per stay, now instead of us we create the infrastructure that the whole world enjoys. Now it's spread out, and it's one of the ways. So a 1% sales tax, that's not, out of the box there. A sales tax on the home, and now you own your home, that's a good measure. But a long-term, every tourism stay with a $1 fee, that begins to build up. Those were some of the things that Rep. Sapp had proposed, and that begins to residually fund the funds that we need to help take care of the cities that are more crushed because they depend more on their homestead tax.
See, I'm gonna be sensational here. I see this tax referendum as a Trojan horse, and we all know what that is, right? And it's filled with a bunch of men, and everybody got a die pack, bootleg die pack on their back. And when that thing opens up, they're gonna run to each of these cities and counties. It's gonna explode, and we don't know what's gonna happen.
So this is my question. So when we talk about using like the tax dollars, and I mean a place like Orlando or Tampa or Miami, they're going to, I think, be okay. But when we start talking about places like Gaston County, Taylor County, Alachua County,
Madison.
Madison County, how is this going to be dispersed, or how is this going to be distributed amongst those counties that don't have those tourist dollars that are there intrinsically to help them out?
Well, the tourist dollars will go into the fund that is the grant fund for everyone else.
And is it going to be
So-
based on the population as to how much each gets, or?
that's the part that gives us heartburn. We can't
Right,
do
right.
the implementation phase when the people haven't even told us go do this.
Interesting.
So there are ideas, and I believe there are things that are very feasible that we can do this, but we're going to have to implement it and make sure that everyone plays fair, that no politics are played. There's got to be some type of a metric
Right.
that we can go to say, okay, based upon, so let's say a rural district, some of them depend 100% on what comes in from the home because they're all homeowners.
Right.
They don't have a lot of, rental tax or this or that. So they're going to need more of them. One of the other things is combining services and the sheriffs have already been talking about this because different places where everyone's recreated the wheel and now we have lots of smaller departments. That's a big expense. So, I know Apopka, when they were smaller, our fire was covered by Orange County. Now Apopka is doing very well there, and Apopka's grown a lot. But
y'all let me jump in here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this because Rod always fusses at me because he say I worked to the last 2 minutes of the show. But and I want to share something with you. I'm going to play the role of concerned citizen. One of my neighbors, she came up with a list, and I wanted to kind of highlight it. Her name is Barb Cook here in Fruitland Park, and she had some questions. So I just want to shoot a couple of them out there. One is, if this is a real tax reform, what replaces it? Number
More
two,
taxes and fees.
yeah.
Number two, she's asked, is this a tax cut or just a tax costume change? Homestead owners may save money up front, but government still need revenue. So does the bill simply reappear through rent, insurance, utility bills, assessment, fees, and higher costs on businesses and apartments? She goes on to give us a lot more, but I just wanted to throw that out there and get y'all response to it.
This will result in higher assessment somewhere, increased millage rates, additional fees, just like Orange County in the last week or two has been discussing an extra $10 a month for storm water to make sure they generate enough money to pay for all that storm stuff that happened during the last hurricane. But it's a tax shift. So while we're taking from the local governments, we're going to have to make it up somewhere. Again, the state of Florida grows by 3 million people a year. New roads, new houses, new infrastructure, services, you name it. It's going to have to be paid for. And that money is going to come from somewhere. Maybe raise the sales tax by a penny, right? It's going to come from somewhere, but it's not a free gift.
And Representative Anton and Bankston, this is my concern as a citizen, is that oftentimes whenever government does things like that, the first the first soldiers to fall are usually smaller entities like nonprofits that provide community services. They get their funding cut at the state and the local level. And are we going to now have the seniors only eat one meal a week? Are we going to get rid of the low cost transportation? Some of them need non-medical transportation, and they pay a fee, but it's a nominal fee that they have because it's subsidized. The counties and the cities subsidize.
Yeah, and so you're right. We've got to replace it somehow. If it is only a tax shift, the question is, first of all, people don't actually own their home. If we did this on people's cars, they'd have a fit. If you suddenly were taxed every year on your vehicle, and if you didn't pay that, they'd take your vehicle and sell it. No one would put up with that. So part of what will replace it is the sales tax on the home at the beginning of that sale, which then is rolled into the 30-year mortgage, but you actually own your home. Now, the concern is they'll take the taxes that, okay, I got tax savings, but now they're going to create fees.
And that's the part.
And so that's why I was talking about the tourism dollars is one way that we could do that, a 1% tax. Another idea was a front license plate. Now, I'm a car guy. I don't even like the back one. But, when he talked about, I think there was $31 million that would generate. If I can, pay $30 and have my taxes off of my own home, then, man, I'll do that. I'll be first in line. there are several different proposals. The problem is we don't have the implementation
Which one,
to
yeah.
prove that.
You're right.
But we have to do that.
Right.
We've got to find a way to replace those things. And to answer your question as well on those who will get their fundings cut. One of the things that I ran a bill, Senate ran it as well, and it never got taken to the governor's office, but was the can't think of the name of it, community and nonprofit. Bottom line is, I forget the name, I forget what you call it, but the bottom line was it was moving into that governor office to work directly with churches and nonprofits throughout the state, making sure that there was a seamless way that everyone knew the programs that were available. But the fact is, and I'm a pastor, there are many churches that they would line up to help, to lend a hand. Every single church, has their little, food storage. It's like we need to work together. If we would all communicate, work together, literally $54 million was saved just through churches and nonprofits in one area alone. And if we were able to duplicate that, then that comes off of the pressure of the taxpayers. But the big thing is, it's not completely replacing it. It is, however, if we are replacing those who own their home, so they truly own it, it's 35% statewide. So how do we fund the 35%? And that's where the challenge is. Again, Eatonville is going to have a lot higher impact than another city. So.
And one last thing. Now we have a history. Me and Bruce have been around here a long time. And remember, Bruce, when they first did the 408 used to be called the East Holland Expressway.
Right.
And they told us, we're going to tax it for 10 years. We're going to toll it for 10 years. Then we're going to open it. And they turned around and say, nah, we ain't going to do that. We're going to keep getting that money. And see, and that's the thing about a lot of these programs. It started out with good intentions, but somewhere it ends up, somebody gets the green weenie, as we used to say in the military. Somebody's going to get that green weenie.
Yeah. Here's the reality of what could happen. So in today's environment, a district like mine, where there are less affluent communities, they already get a portion of the services that the more affluent communities get, whether that's infrastructure, stormwater, sewage replacement, road maintenance, or what have you. So if the cities and counties are going to have to cut, who you think going to get the real shorty end of the stick? The less affluent communities in a district like mine and all across the state, the rural areas, because their voices are not as loud and influential as the more affluent community.
And I agree. That's what.
But here's one of the other things, and I like the fact that we started this conversation off about working together. When you came in, Rep, and here's where we are going to be leaning on that bipartisanship. And I will say, Bruce, Greg and I have worked with you for years. We've seen you champion. Matter of fact, you told us some of the tricks to the trade where you do brothers with the speaker, But this is where we're going to have to lean on the leadership because you're right. We know that there's areas and communities that are not getting. We're not even talking about fairness. That's just not getting. But one of the other things that Doc is, he wasn't even alluding to. Here's another major concern. When you have fiscal impacts such as this, and I'm not even going to name a municipality, but not-for-profits and faith-based organizations, one of the major concerns, and I'll say this because I worked in government, I worked at one of the highest levels in government, and we had associations out there, and you're familiar with one of them, was the Juvenile Justice Association. When we had to do cuts internally, the Juvenile Justice Association, because everybody knew we had a $740 million budget. 450 million of that was contracted services. So our associations would go back to the legislature and say, well, we're going to get cut. We want to see the department reduce its FTEs consumer with the impact that we're going to have. And so that's one of the things Doc is talking about. Are we going to see local county governments that if they have to reduce human services in communities, are they going to constrict what they're spending, which is pensions, employees and things on that end? That's one thing. And I was making some notes as y'all were talking. What area is Representative Sapp out of? Because he sounds like somebody we need to invite, Greg.
I'll tell you what, I pushed his stuff to all the leadership, to governors. I said, y'all need to look at this because he's really thought through this on how we can replace it and make sure that there's a fund available to help those who have a greater impact. And that's part of it. Again, there's two things. There's should we do this, but how?
How do we do it? Well,
And the thing.
well, I'm sorry. Well, one of the other things we want to get invite Representative Sapp on the show, but then I don't remember which one of you talked about the 1% sales tax. What people don't see before the show is the pre-show of what we talk about some of this stuff, and we've had conversations about consumption. That's what we equate sales tax as, a consumption tax. But here's the other concern that everybody's talking about, and both of you correct because you're the lawmakers. This property tax exempt school taxes, and that's it. Am I correct?
Right.
Okay, and so it goes back to Greg's point that CRAs and a whole bunch of other taxable entities are out there. And if that's the case, our other concern would be City of McCoy right now is having discussions about a fire assessment fee. So we local governments replace taxes with a whole bunch of fees.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen. That's where we're going.
I mean, this is one thing that we have to look at. And I am a huge first responder supporter and fan, always have been. But if you look at this, the average citizen, their income has only increased in minimal single digits since the whole COVID episode. But police and fire are double digits and up to 20% increases. Why? Not because they're not worth it, but so is the guy on the street. He's worth it too. Everyone's worth it. People are worth things, but man, if I could, I'd just wave the magic wand, but we can't do that. So why did that happen? Because some of the governments that are big, that got a windfall, were able to drive the prices. So they'll go to the smaller districts and they'll hire our best.
Yeah.
And then what do we have to do? We have to raise it. I was at a popular. We had to raise it a huge amount. Again, nothing against. I want to give them as much as we can. But what it did was it's something that causes it to be just priced out of the market for the smaller areas. This will force larger governments to tighten the belt, like we've had to in Tallahassee. You know how much we make.
Well,
we make a fifth of what a county commissioner makes.
I would say that there's a claim
we've done it.
that this tax elimination referendum is mainly for the purpose of solving an issue in Miami-Dade County. And so we've thrown a grenade in the room to fix Miami-Dade, but we blew up the rest of the state.
Interesting.
And so at the end of the day, Orange County raising stormwater fees by $10 a month, sales tax increase by a penny, licensing fees going up, assessments going up. It might not equal to that $3,700 that you save with a $250,000 exemption, but you're still going to pay the bulk of what was pulled back off of your tax bill with the assessment.
I know there's the concern for that. I haven't seen those numbers yet. And that's the problem. We have to get to the implementation phase. Yeah. And when we get there, then the numbers have to work. They have to work.
Well, see, last year the governor vetoed a bill that would have done an assessment, that would have done analysis of how will property tax elimination impact cities, counties, and the state. And he vetoed it. And then we throw this thing out here. And like I say, it's just a bunch of little men running around with dye packs on their back, waiting to just blow up. Every little city, every little county. We got an issue here. We got a real problem here. And the fear is this thing is going to pass. Now, I'm all for people having more money in their pocket. I certainly believe that. I want more money in my pocket. But again, we just don't know what's going to happen with this. And I think right now, Florida is the first state in the nation to get this far.
Yeah.
And so we are the test case, we the test dummy. And I don't think it's going to end well if this passes.
I think the other side, too, is the philosophical question. Should we be doing this? And when we were in committee, which I love because we think through it, we've got to talk through it, even if we end up talking through it and realizing, you know what, this isn't the best route to go. But the question was, the local government saying this is a stable source of income. It was talked about jacking the sales tax up, 12%. Yeah, that could pay for it. But what happens when the economy goes like this? Sales tax is not stable in the same way. But the question being, well, this is a stable source of income. And I said, well, I understand that. I get that. And if I didn't have a stable paycheck, I wouldn't know how to budget. So we have to budget low if things are up and down. However, and I pointed to my neighbor, and I'll just use, I said, well, I'll bet you've got a decent retirement fund,
It's all right.
and when you get there, it'll be enough. And so if I could find a legal way to tap into your retirement fund, I'd have a stable source of income. But that's not right.
You're right.
Because
You're
that's
right.
his. So
You're right.
that's the real question. We are taking homeowners. We have found a stable source of income. The piggy bank is your house, my house. And because we've always done it that way, that's why I say we can't just do this willy-nilly. We've got to make sure and have a process to make sure that the rug isn't pulled out from everyone. But we also can't say your house is my piggy bank.
Correct. You're right.
So this is a way to make sure homeowners, not all, but the homeowner, at least now I actually own my home that I paid off. And if I couldn't pay those taxes, it could be taken from me. You couldn't do that with your car. You couldn't do that here. We're used to doing that way. So 35%, if we can find a process, and I believe there's a way to do this, but we've got to do it smart. We've got to do it incremental. We've got to make sure it's done fair.
You're right.
Yeah.
And bottom line, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And I think this is the case where we broke something or potentially breaking it. And then we got to try to figure out how we're going to fix it. And I don't know that we're going to be able to fix it without it causing other damage.
It'll be uncomfortable. The change always is, but is it good change? If we can solve those things, people do own their homes, because that's the other thing that is broken right now. When I bought my home, built my home and paid for it, my mortgage was this and taxes and insurance were here. They actually equal one another. So once my home is paid off, I still have the same amount that I was paying when I bought my home. And that's the problem. We need to give relief to homeowners. And we need to keep the pedal down on insurance. Absolutely. Keep finding ways. But it has to be a market-based solution. We can't put an artificial cap, or we'll have what happened to Citizens.
You're right.
It was capped here, and it ended up almost going bankrupt. One more storm, and we'd have been over our heads. And who pays for that? The citizens. We all own that. So that's beginning to turn around. We're seeing things go in the right direction. If we can get rid of that TI from the PITI on your mortgage, new home buyers will be able to afford. It'll relieve the rental market, bringing those prices down. There will be shifts. There will be fees that will replace some of those things. But if we will implement some of these other things, that will now come in and supplement it. And now even those who are visiting can help relieve the homeowners who have borne the whole burden.
And I'm looking at what other efficiencies do we find from this? I mean, one of the examples I was looking at Jacksonville, when they consolidated their law enforcement, you had, just like we have here, county, city. Through that consolidation, is there any research or reports or data that shows that they got economy of scale from that consolidation? Some of the other things that I know municipalities across the state is going to have to look at is right here in Orange County. We have a few municipalities that you have to scratch your head and say, and I'm not going to name them, but population of 2,500. Is it wise to be out there and you're that small municipality? I mean, it makes sense to be unincorporated then.
Right.
I mean,
And that's where we will have to combine services to really cover that.
But here's a question I have. And much like when I first met Representative Anton, he had some far-fetched ideas. That's still gonna say a conversation for you would be better.
Thinking out of the box.
but the question I have is this. All right, and I agree, Rep. Banks, you said something in terms of tourist tax dollars, because I believe that tourism is Florida's gold. And I believe that it is the resource that we're going to have forever and ever, amen, just because of how great the state is. But we also have monies that come into a certain pot every single year that I've seen grow to $500 million, $700 million, to $1 billion. And I'm talking about the Florida lottery. Is there any way that some of the monies that go into, and I know that the lottery is set aside for education, but is there any way that some of that money can be used to offset this?
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. Rep. Sapp had a proposal to be able to do that and not hurt what we're doing for schools.
I like this.
Yeah, I like this.
So I'm telling you, there's a lot there, and almost no one saw that proposal, maybe because he was a freshman. But the bottom line is the House worked hard. We started early on, worked all through, listened to everyone, and said, this is what we're hearing, and these are the concerns. Senate didn't move early on. It waited till the end, and then, of course, the governor, he was holding his cards close to the vest, but it all came together. The schools got put back in. The Senate said, we're going to do that. So there was a fear about that. You know, again, even though there are folks that pay that and never had a kid in school or their kids are, you know, there are those questions. We can't do everything overnight. But if we begin to start going the right direction, I think we can find a way to do it. If there's a will, there's a way.
You're right.
But we have to do it again.
And there are some efficiencies because it will force the cities and the counties to go back and re-examine their budgets. Are we spending wisely? Can we do it with less? So that's where some efficiencies come in. But I just think, man, we playing Russian roulette here for now because we should have done a thorough analysis of the impact before we put this on the ballot. And people sent us to Tallahassee to make tough decisions. So we can't always punt it back to the local folk. Let the voters decide. No, they sent us to Tallahassee to make that decision. And sometimes we got to put our big boy draws on and we got to make the decision. And this was,
However,
and this
constitutionally, we can't do that. We have to put it to the vote. Constitutionally.
Right. But the other part of this too is at the end of the day, if this passes, folks are still going to be paying taxes on their homes because this only exempts $250,000. And I'm sure everybody in this room has a house that's assessed at more than $250,000. So you might own it outright, but you're still going to be paying taxes on it. And I mean, the homestead thing works in Florida. It has always worked. Nevada, Las Vegas has a tourist development tax, $35 per hotel night. Here it might only be $10. It's $35 per room in Las Vegas. So that's another way you make up for it. But we're going to pay for this. We're just shifting it. That's all we're doing. We're shifting it from one place and it looks pretty, but it ain't pretty.
But it is incremental. So the first year is the 150, the second year the 250, but the third year we are supposed to get it to where it truly is removing the tax from the homeowner. The problem is now schools are back in, so that will always be taxed.
So are we going to remove all the taxes after the third year?
After the third year, we're supposed to begin to find the path. How do we get there? So homeowners, and again, it's only then that we even reach that 35% statewide.
Tell you what, let me do this. Let me do this. We got 3 minutes left on the show.
Well, no. We got to do this because I need Representative Anton and Representative Bankston to do me a favor. There was a law that was passed here in the state of Florida that I think is just fundamentally unfair. It says that if you do 100 miles per hour or more, you go to jail. I need y'all to change that.
I would agree.
Greg just need to slow down now.
Listen, I need just. You know.
I've been stopped like 5 times
but see,
over 100 miles an hour.
You go to Tallahassee.
No, I was stopped in Utah.
Hey, I agree. We got race cars, and we want to drive.
Hey,
we got to take that.
No, you know what?
That's why I drove mine.
Light goes 186,000 miles a second.
Hey, but let me say this on a serious note. On a serious note, I gotta say this, and I promised somebody that I would say this, and the more that they said this to me, the more I started feeling in my soul and in my bones. There's elderly individuals that have worked 40 years to own their home, and Greg, you know a lot of the clergy. And by the way, Rep, you did a great job with the prayer breakfast, bringing the churches together. But I got to say this, and I'm going to say it and I'm going to leave it. I have individuals saying to me on a regular basis, and these are folks that are on fixed incomes, that saying, I thought after I spent all these years buying my home that I could be comfortable and die in my home. And now individuals are saying they're going to have to sell their homes because they can't afford it. 2 reasons: property tax and property insurance. And so hey, Reps, Greg and I and Doc Polite, we really appreciate you all coming here. And we find ourselves, because I'm going to just tell you, I'm never going to vote against my interests. And I hear what people say about the impact after the fact. I think there's a way for government to tighten its belt. I'm going to say that. I believe there's efficiency out there, but you got cats on the other end of the table. Greg is an expert in CRA. I'm looking for government to tap some of this untapped resource. Rep, you do it all the time. Pastor Bankston, Representative Bankston, you engage us. We're going to find out who this Representative Sapp is. But we got to figure a way, because we can't have folk that work all their lives to own a home. And because the system's always been the way it's always been, we got to figure a way to make it work for everybody.
And we actually did pass a proposal that 65 and over would get relief. That was one of the 8 proposals we put forward to get something across the finish line, but this one was the only one that went across the aisle.
And see, we should have done the analysis first to see how to do what you want to do and to give everybody relief. We should have done that first. That is the wise way, the smart way of doing things. But we're just throwing it out there and saying, voters, you decide. And I don't know.
This is what makes Lost Talk Nation popular. Hey, we reached that hour. Greg, I'm gonna let you, go ahead and tally us, and then I'll close us out.
No, absolutely. So just want to say thank you once again to Representative Banks and Representative Antone. That's the AB team. Look at
AB team.
Representative Antone, Representative Banks for coming in and joining us, talking to us about things that's happening up on the Hill. We really appreciate you all taking your time. You could have been anywhere else tonight, and you chose to serve here with Brother Love, myself, and Let's Talk Nation. We really, really appreciate y'all for that. So
We appreciate you. Thank you.
Hey, thank y'all. And I say this to Greg, and Greg understands it, and it's with all due respect, but Brother Jackson, you don't have to go home.
But you got to get out of here.
We'll see y'all next week on Let's Talk Nation.
I think this is a good thing.